little audio check as well, just to make sure those in the room who aren't present can hear us. Yeah. Do we have any participants who aren't physically present with us?
Kate did leave the room and joined to make sure she could hear us.
Okay, she could hear us?
Yep.
Okay, super. So I'll wait for a signal from this table to begin.
They may not be on chat.
What did you say?
They may not be on chat. Why don't you ask if they can hear us?
Oh, Jane just chatted to ask if, she said, can you hear us? Is she asking us, or is she asking people who aren't in the room?
Jane, she's not on any of this at all.
Oh, are you logged in as Jane?
I'm logged in as Jane, yes.
Oh, so you were asking
I'm
that.
asking, I guess.
Fantastic.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Someone came back and said yes.
Thank you. Super. Well, it sounds like we've got audio working. As soon as we are ready to begin recording. Okay. All right. I think we're all set, folks. Sorry for the short delay as we organized our online Zoom meeting. Hello to everyone in our live studio audience. I'm Heather Woods from Blackboard. I'm a solutions engineer based in the Twin Cities, and my background's in higher ed instruction in the field of classics. So I have about 10 years of experience teaching face-to-face and purely online, and I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about our mobile applications for students and for instructors. So I'd like to start with an invitation that I'd love to hear your feedback as we go through and answer questions as well. Our discussion today will range a little bit into the future. So I share this statement about, everything that I share that's not been delivered yet is my best faith knowledge of what will be delivered in the future for our products. And we do continually seek feedback from our customers like College of St. Scholastica in order to ensure that we're not designing in a vacuum, that we're really taking our products out to you, sharing what our plans are, and then gathering that feedback to then incorporate into our development cycle. So for today, I'd like to share just a little bit about the mobile vision that Blackboard has for not just mobile apps, but for the application itself. And then we'll talk about the Blackboard app for students, formerly BB Student, but because of student confusion searching just for Blackboard on the App Store, we've renamed it just Blackboard app to make things easier. And then also Blackboard Instructor, which is an app specifically for instructors. And then we'll have some time for Q&A. So let's begin with Blackboard's mobile vision. And for those who are not joining us live in the room, my friend Andrew is moderating the chat for us, so feel free to chat questions as well, and he'll alert me to those. So the pillars of our mobile strategy are really to inform users on things that are timely and important, simplify their key workflows, and reach users where they are. That is to say, where they're most comfortable, where they're spending the most of their time, etc. And since we're starting with students, and since all that we do really has the students in mind as their success as our end goal, we recognize that the student profile has changed over time, and that students are busier than ever. Most of them do work while they're in school. Many of them are part-time students, some even at more than one institution, and actually a growing percentage of them are taking care of either younger or older family members and relatives. Because of this, we really need to help students to be able to do the things they need to do as quickly as possible, and that includes on the platform or device that is quickest to hand for them for the task that they need to complete. Because of this, we really are addressing mobility on two fronts. So one is through the native mobile apps that we'll mostly be focusing on today. But I don't want to leave aside the other sort of prong of our philosophy, which is through the responsive web. So responsive design is building the, if you will, desktop or laptop version of Learn to then be able to be accessed on mobile browsers. Okay, so making sure that things scale appropriately to make the best use of the screen, reorganize the content so that you can scroll through it instead of expecting it all to appear at one time on a screen, and so forth. So you've seen the beginning of our foray into responsive design in the release that you're currently on, I believe. And you'll see with every subsequent release of Blackboard Learn, increased responsiveness to different areas. So there are some areas that, you know, we do expect may take a long time or may not ever be totally suitable for use on a phone. Think about something like the Grade Center. Most of us don't try to work with Excel spreadsheets on our phone anyway. That kind of thing is just, that's not the best tool for that task. But we are trying to make as much of Learn responsive as we possibly can, and with every iterative release, we're increasing that. Now, one might ask, why not just make Learn responsive and not worry about mobile apps? And the reason for that is that with mobile apps, we can take advantage of some features that your desktop, your laptop machine might not have. So these are simple things like a camera. Not every desktop machine has a camera, a microphone like we're using today, but also things like push notifications, right? So that's just something that desktop machines don't do as well, but we rely on those through the mobile devices. So we're really trying to address this, like I said, through both sides, making the web more responsive so it works on mobile browsers, and then also having these dedicated mobile apps. So our goal in all of this is really to provide a seamless experience for learners and for those who are providing instruction. So whether they're engaging on their home computer, on their laptop, you know, on the quad, or on their tablet, or on their phone while they're on the bus, we want them to feel like it's one learning experience, and it's really the CSS learning experience. So just to speak for a moment about our ecosystem of apps. As I mentioned today, we're going to be talking about the Blackboard app for students. And I've placed the icons on this screen so that those of you who may not have downloaded them already while I'm talking can surreptitiously be looking at the App Store and finding the correct apps. We'll be talking about the Blackboard app for students. That's been out since about, I think, late 2015 or so. It's been around for a while. And then also the Blackboard Instructor app, which was just released last month. Okay, so our mobile app strategy is really to, as I described, right, get your feedback. That means that we are kind of approaching things a little bit the opposite of maybe someone like Apple, who really works behind the scenes and comes up with something and then reveals it to great fanfare. Instead, our process is maybe more mundane, but we release products when we think you will see value from them, and then we iterate on that. So the first incarnation of Blackboard Instructor is what we'll be talking about today, but we'll also talk about where the future of that app goes as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on from these. The icons, recall, for the student, it's the little pencil. For the instructors, it's like the little maybe agenda book or date book. I do also want to share, in terms of our ecosystem of apps, that we do have an older mobile app called Mobile Learn. This was not persona specific. This was one app for all of Learn, so it could be used by students, by instructors, and so forth. This app has been around for many years, and because it's a format that will no longer be supported by the Mac mobile operating systems in the future, we've had to begin its retirement. So the first step toward that was communication to our customers that this would be end of life. And then at the beginning of this month, we took it out of the App Store so that we weren't gaining new customers for it, if you will. After the 31st, so just a couple of days, Mobile Learn won't be supported anymore. So what that means is not that you can't continue to use it, but it's a little bit use at your own risk, because we aren't able to support it at this point, okay? So if you are using Mobile Learn, I really encourage you to take this opportunity to switch over to using our more modern persona-based apps instead. And again, that's because Mobile Learn was a feature of its time. It was built as a 32-bit app, and those 32-bit apps running on 64-bit hardware actually, you know, draw a little bit more from your resources in terms of your power and bandwidth, but also Apple is just recognizing we're not going to support that anymore, and rather than have folks who are on Android maybe have a different experience than those who are on iPhones and so forth. We're just going to let that slowly retire, and we'll transition over to using those more modern apps instead. So the Blackboard app for student, let's start there with a couple of highlights of what students can do with this app. So first of all, and we'll see this in just a moment when I actually go to the live app, students are given a prioritized view of announcements, activities due, any content that's recently been added, newly graded items, things like that. This all appears in what's called the activity stream, and we'll see that in just a moment. It's where students land when they access the app. They also have access to their courses and the course content, so they can interact with that course content while they're on the go. They can even participate in some of the interactive elements of the course, like taking quizzes, submitting assignments. They can contribute to discussion forums, and so forth. They also can benefit from push notifications from the app. Okay, so I'm not sure that whether or not you support this, but Learn does have the capability to send push notifications directly from Learn. So for those who weren't using an app at all, Learn can send push notifications. Those who use the app can also get push notifications from the app. The benefit of that is that you can just click on that push notification and go right to the item that it's alerting you about. Okay, so again, we're trying to give folks choice. If people don't choose to use the app, that's fine. They still could get mobile announcements. But you know, if they choose to use the app, it's just one-click access. So that's handy for them. So let's go ahead and actually look at the app. And again, if there are questions, let me know. We'll see here, I'll try to minimize all of this so that you can just see my phone screen. And I have quite a tangle of different cords on my podium here, so pardon me while I disengage myself. All right, so here I've logged into the student app as a student, Beth. And I've been in this app for a little while, but when I first log in, I would land here on the activity stream. So here you see a prioritized list of things to do, right? This is what's new, what's due. I'll tell you, we have a system announcement. This is demo system, so my system announcement isn't anything about my institution, rather it's for people like me. This is the code you use to get in this because it's a hidden system. But notice that any system level announcements, this might be, you know, due to lake effect blizzard, classes on campus are canceled, you know, something like that. That's going to be at the top in red, marked important. If the student doesn't want to see this anymore, they actually have to actively click that dismiss button. Okay, so we're really helping them not only to get a sense of what's important in terms of the calendar, you know, things that are upcoming and so forth, but also things that are of great importance or urgency from the perspective of, you know, what's going on at their institution or from their instructors. So after the important things, and I'll say under important would also be where my overdue assignments would show up, if I were late on an assignment, something like that. I also have my upcoming items. So here I have notice about some activities that I need to turn in soon. I have a chapter 1 assignment due on the 8th and so forth, right? I can see what has happened in my recent past, right? Some things that have been added or maybe some grades that I've gotten feedback on. Any of that can appear in the activity stream. So we'll come back to the courses in just a moment, but I just want to share a little bit more about this base navigation here. So we have access here to check grades. That's one of the very top things that we know students do and that they want to do quickly. In fact, our data science team, which is unusual in the field of LMS providers to actually have a full data science team that's working on pedagogical research and providing forums for our customers to also share their pedagogical research. They actually have examined the relationship between checking grades, like taking a kind of quick pulse on how you're doing in your courses, and student success. We know that students frequently check grades, so we try to make that easy for them. Now, I have some classes that choose not to share an ongoing grade, and I have others that choose to share grades in different formats. So my instructor has chosen how to display these grades, and I see as the instructor has chosen. So in my bio class, right, it's a letter grade. In my English Comm class, it's a number out of total. And then in my Spanish class, where I'm not actually doing very well, it's a percentage. Okay, so we can see that lozenge shape, or that like oval pill shape. That always is going to relate to grades throughout the user interface that we see within the mobile app, also within other user experiences, such as the Ultra experience for Learn, which you may have heard about before. It's utilizing the same set of kind of design language, if you will. All right, so I was able to check my grades. I also have access to a calendar that's really formatted in the way that, according to our research, students do their work. So I live by my Outlook calendar, which looks like a calendar, a grid, you know, with the different days. Students, on the other hand, tend to prefer lists. So they will gather, you know, syllabuses from all their different courses and collate them into a kind of to-do list if we don't provide that to them. So rather than having them take that time to do that administrative work, if you will, to organize their lives, we provide them a list of due dates across their courses, and they can click on any of these items and go straight to that activity. Okay, again, I can slide along and find things that are due later if I wanted to, and so forth. But it's just another view of what's coming up. That activity stream is one way to see what's coming up in order of importance. The due dates are just a way to pay attention to things that are actually due. Okay, so there will be things in the activity stream, calendar events, for example, that won't be in the due dates because there's not a due date, right? My dentist appointment isn't necessarily a due date. We really want to keep the due dates area kind of pristine and focused on things like assignments due and so forth. All right, so we've talked a little bit about all of this. Down at the bottom, you can see give feedback. We actually accept feedback on the app through the app, so students can directly communicate with us and our product managers on things that are working or not working for them in terms of the design and how we might be able to improve. So that's very important to us. Right, let's go on and look at courses briefly. So here we see my list of current courses. If I had other courses, I would be able to see those as well from, you know, next term, things like that. Here I am logged in, as I mentioned, as a student. Let's go ahead and look at my Spanish course where it's so hot. And here we see a presentation of the course materials. Okay, so this is all course content, right? I have this outline here. I also have a couple of other areas that I can navigate to with these arrows at the top, but let's talk about course content first. So here I have a couple of documents. For example, this page on accent marks. I have a video here right in the app. It's going to launch my normal video player just like YouTube would or whatever. I could play that, and we'll go ahead and get out of that because it's not that fun to watch this luchador talk about accents. We also have things like PDF documents that we can open right here on the screen. Now this perhaps is small print. Of course, we can zoom in if we want to, but maybe I would like to actually just print this. And if I'm somewhere with a Wi-Fi enabled printer, I can actually print right from the screen using the button at the upper right. Otherwise, perhaps I wanted to annotate it or something like that. I can choose Open With and then select something like maybe Evernote. And I could put it in my Evernote and I can utilize the different sort of markup features and things like that there. I can also add it to my iCloud Drive or other types of actions. So we can send documents from the Blackboard student app to these other tools that folks might have on their devices in order to help them work in a way that's productive to them. All right, so we have looked a little bit at different types of content. Let's also hop over to a quiz quickly. So here I've got a quiz that I need to take. Notice that when I click onto the quiz, I'm given some details and information about when the quiz is due, how many attempts I have, whether or not I can submit late, and so forth. Okay, so I've taken this quiz a lot of times, right? 15 times, because I just slide to the right in order to start that quiz, and you can see my thumb's still on it, but as I slide, that little check mark completes, right? So I can kind of undo it. If I start sliding, I'm like, oh no, I can just slide right back. No harm, no foul, right? Here I have my quiz, and I'm just going to type some gibberish since we don't have time to actually answer based on our knowledge of Espanol, and submit. So do I want to submit? Yes, I do. Notice that I get a little sort of thinking swirl, and then attempt has been submitted. Notice now I can slide to start attempt 16. So attempt 15 was completed. All right. So we've looked at quizzes. Let's actually now scroll back up to the top and notice that course content area. Yeah, question? This is coming just from the course, and the app is organizing it. So it knows when something's a discussion, and it'll put it in the discussions area. It knows when something is a quiz and puts it in the quizzes area. So this is just from the content area in the course. So in my course, it's called content. Over to the side. It's just it'll take from your content areas. So if you have a link to some third-party tool or something, Learn recognizes that that's not a content area, that's a link to a third-party tool. This is going to convert your content areas into the content you see here. So if you have it in folders, for example, you'll see folders here, like week 1 folder, you'll click into that, then you'll see the content. Does that make sense? Yeah, so the things that are over on the left side that have to do with content in your regular Learn course, those are the things that are going to be presented as the course content in the app. Does that make sense? And if you like, afterwards, we can look at another course that is organized by like weeks and units, if that is helpful to see. So as I mentioned, here we have the course content, but we do have these arrows across the top. If we swipe in one direction or click on the arrow in one direction, we see our grades. Okay, so here we see my total grade, and actually I have my, oh, oops, I didn't mean to open that. I actually have that quiz that I've just recently taken. I can swipe either direction, it just rotates, right, like a carousel. So I'll go right again, and I'll get to my discussions area, okay? So here, again, we have a discussion board. Let's click on that. Now, this is one that nobody has participated in. I can start a thread. I can reply to a thread simply by clicking on that add reply. Okay, so if I wanted to type in my response to my fellow students' discussion board, I could do that. Okay, so we have seen the activity stream, that curated list according to both date and importance of activities, new content add-on, new grades, etc. We have seen the courses area that gives us all of our courses that we're enrolled in as a student, and that gives us access to the course content areas. We can participate in discussions, we can take a quiz, we can submit to assignments, and so forth. We can also, most importantly, to a lot of students, check our grades. Okay, so any questions on the student app before we move on to the instructor experience? Do we have any questions in the chat? Silent group on a super early foggy morning. All right, well, let's go ahead and switch over to those slides that we were just looking at, and we'll talk a little bit about the instructor app. Oh, I've got my little box in there. Sure.
I just pulled this out, and it doesn't recognize how it's
It is College of Saint Spelled.
Okay.
So you have to.
Okay, great tip.
So these apps, once you're connected into the college, and then the college recognizes
Yes.
and it automatically.
Yes.
enrolls.
Yes, and that's a great question because that's something that is not controlled by us. It's controlled by the institution. How you've named yourself, basically, with Blackboard is how your students will find you. So
What is that?
the College of Saint spelled out Scholastica. Yeah, great tip. Did it?
Maybe the student one is the,
That's how I found it.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, I would think if you search for Scholastica, it would
It'll
find part of
search
that.
parts of the name.
Yeah. Okay. So any other questions on that student app before we talk a little bit about what's coming in the future, and then we'll talk about the instructor app. Okay. Yep. Sure. What
With the actual act,
Mhm.
planning and occupancy, I actually lose it.
because they're paler, less bright. Sure. I think because to be honest, in terms of on the App Store, you mean? I think it's because our aim is not for your students to make an emotional relationship with Blackboard. I mean, ultimately, yes, but rather this is their portal into CSS. It's not about them being our student, because they're not. They're your student, and this little pencil is the way they get into that. All right, so what's coming next for the student app? So later this year, we're hoping to release offline support, which is something that we're very excited about. So this means that for those who are going to go away for the weekend to Grand Marais, but not the local Grand Marais, the one that's like an hour and a half up to the Canadian border, which I went to last fall, which was gorgeous, but really shouldn't be called the same Grand Marais. It's very far away. And they're going to lose service, right? They can actually continue to interact with their course content. So they can read readings from the course and so forth. All they have to do, it works a little bit like if you use Spotify or something else like that. If you know you're going to be out of service, you can download a playlist. It downloads to your local device. You can interact with that. And then when you come back into service, in the case of the student app, it will actually sync up. Okay, so we're really excited about this. It makes a huge difference, obviously, for those who are vacationing in more remote places, but also for those on very urban campuses who are on the subway or something, and they're going to lose access to their cell service. Even more so for those, since we're a global company, that are in rural or underserved areas in terms of technology. So if you have folks that are doing service learning or study abroad or things like that, they still can participate in their online courses, even when they have those very limited resource situations where maybe at their home they're not going to have Wi-Fi, but when they come into town they do. So that is something we're very excited about. Another piece, and if we were talking about Blackboard Learn as a whole, not just limited to the mobile apps, we'd also be talking about this today, which is the coming attendance tool. Something that we showed at Blackboard World last month. We're very excited about, and the aspect of this that will relate to the mobile app is that we will enable students to actually check into class on the app if desired, right? So if you've got a very kind of face-to-face oriented course and you really don't require that, no big deal. But for those who maybe have larger classes and the sign-in sheet is a hassle, or having the TA go around and try and determine who all's in class is too much work, we can support this as well.
We'll be able to take attendance ourselves in Blackboard Learn?
Yes, yep. And that's a separate but related feature to this self-check attendance. Yeah, absolutely. So you'll set that up, and I'll just take a moment to talk about the Learn one, not related to the mobile app. You'll be able to take bulk actions, mark everyone present, and then go through and say this person was absent, this person was late, this person was excused. And you can also identify a grade, points, or whatever for attendance, on-time attendance, right? For late attendance, some portion of that maybe excused, etc. Yep. So that would rely on your how you are dealing with profiles in Learn. So you either are using the cloud profiles where students have control over the image that they upload, or you're not, in which case you provide an image onto the roster through your SIS or some other system. But it would be, to the extent that there would be pictures visible, it would be through that. You wouldn't need to gather pictures or anything like that. In the first incarnation of this that I demonstrated on a development server at Blackboard World, I did not see pictures showing, but that doesn't mean that that functionality won't appear upon release or somewhat after. Great question. Okay, and then right now, the mobile apps just say Blackboard on them. We are moving towards the capability, and this is in design, so a little farther out, to enable your branding to appear on that app. So again, it's more of the experience of the student interacting with College of St. Scholastica, not so much with Blackboard, but that's a little complex, and so it's going to take us a little time so that we're sure that your branding shows up nicely and it appropriately scales and so forth. All right, so this is a quick summary of what is available now in the student app, what's coming in development, and then what's coming in research and design. If anyone uses Collaborate, if you have more than one institution that you're working with, any adjuncts or anything like that, there are also benefits coming to Collaborate through the mobile app as well, but I've removed those from the slides for our purposes. All right, so let's talk about the instructor experience. The Blackboard Instructor app, again, was just released last month. And I wanted to share a little bit about its purpose because, again, we follow that process of releasing something as soon as we think someone might benefit from it and then iterating on that. So its purpose, and this is talking about its vision, is really to inform instructors in ways that help them to encourage student success, to simplify administrative tedium with regard to managing their classes, and helping them engage meaningfully with students to help students to continue to be successful and to feel a human presence even in a purely online environment. So what's available right now in the Blackboard Instructor app is the ability to view and create announcements, the ability to view and participate in discussions. You're able also to preview course content. You can look at assignments and tests. You can't take them, but you can look at them. Again, at this time, you won't be building content, tests, assignments, etc. in the app. That's still better done at this point on your laptop or desktop machine. And you can communicate with other instructional staff within your course. So if you have TAs or a team taught course, you'll be able to email back and forth from the app if you choose. Again, that's a minor efficiency at best, but really the focus is on these communication aspects with students, the announcements, discussions, and so forth. So let's go ahead and look at the Blackboard Instructor app. And for that, we're going to switch over to looking at my iPad. Now, the Instructor app is optimized for both phone and tablet, although for most things, you probably, like to be on a tablet if you're looking at, deeply looking at content. You'll see here that when I log in, I do have some settings that where I can provide feedback again from instructors directly to Blackboard about the app. We also have a help link here, so that's it'll lead you over to Blackboard help if you have any questions about the app. And this is also would be where you log out if you, again, are an instructor at more than one institution and you needed to swap between the different ones. So here I see a list of my current courses. I have my past courses as well there available if I want to view those. As long as they're still on your system, then the app will recognize that. And so here I'd like to go into one of my courses. Let's go into this advertising course. And you'll see here I have a couple of due dates. Again, those aren't, I don't have anything due to turn in, but rather these are things that are coming up for my students. And it helps me keep an eye on what my next week or two is going to look like. I also have access here to my announcements. So let's create an announcement. So here we have a couple of announcements already existing. I can create an announcement by just typing, right? I might want to say something like, office hours. Let's talk about office hours on Monday because it's going to be a holiday, right? But I also can utilize one of the benefits of the mobile app, which is the built-in recorder, right? So at the bottom of my iPad keyboard, I have my microphone, office hours. So I can actually just speak and it will translate that speech into text for me, and I can create my announcement that way. Office hours Monday will be canceled due to the holiday. And then I can just post right from here. So pretty fast and simple. Again, you could also just type, you could paste something from the clipboard if you had already typed something in some other app, etc. So let's go ahead and I'll not post that today. And we can look at our course content. So here's an example of a course. This advertising course is organized in units and weeks and so forth. So this is a pretty densely organized course. And you can see that we can actually go into these different course areas and view things. So let's look at our pre-course work. One of the things that's very helpful here is that I can quickly and easily tell what things are visible to my students at this time. And that's one of the things that we really wanted to help with on the mobile app. We recognize that there's always going to be things that you're going to want to do on the desktop or the laptop. Again, I hearken to the Grade Center, right? Which is easiest to use on those larger screens. But in terms of an instructor, what are the things that I need to quickly do? If I'm in the line at the store and I just want to take a few seconds to check on something, it might be, oh, did I respond to that discussion? What's coming up for me next week because I've got to make an appointment for my kid at the dentist or something like that. I need to know. I don't want to do it on the day that I'm going to be getting 4,000 emails about, can I turn in my assignment late? But also it might be, what's visible to my students in this unit, just to double check. And this is one of those aspects. So here I also can, let's go into unit 1 so we see that week folder arrangement that I mentioned. Let's go into an assignment and just look at what that looks like. So here I have an ad campaign assignment. We'll see it in just a moment. I think I'm taxing my resources here with my 3 devices on Wi-Fi. Well, we can look at that in just a moment. Instead, let's go into the week 1 resources. So here we have, this is just some readings, a little video. In this advertising course, we want to take that advertising giant Apple, and we're going to talk a little bit about what they're doing right and so forth. With the assignment, we'll see that we're just letting students know what's due, how they're expected to participate in the assignment, and so forth. So if we go back to the main portion of the course, notice that we do have this instructors area at the bottom. Now, I'm the only instructor in this course, but you see the little envelope to the right. If I had TAs or other instructors that were team teaching this class with me, that would be how I could email them directly from the mobile app. It would go ahead and open up my whatever email clients I'm using on my device. In my case, it's Outlook. So again, if that is an efficiency that you benefit from, super. If you prefer to just go to Outlook and do it that way, that's also fine. But that's the first step in adding communication elements that would then benefit also students as well. Mm-hmm. So what item would or do you mean is grayed out? Oh, so that may mean that there's a setting that on your particular instance that doesn't allow that, or that you don't have an email client enabled. Okay, so that seems to me like maybe something about the settings locally on your instance. We can talk about why that might be. Absolutely. So we also can participate in discussions. So we can, let's go to this Unit 1 discussion. And notice here we have a bunch of discussions in this advertising class. This happens to be about like deodorant marketing. So that's why it says, how do you want to smell and things like that. We can see how many points this is worth. Again, this is the first incarnation of the app, so it provides view access to some of these things that later we'll be able to alter. We can see the grading rubric. So what were my levels of achievement and so forth. and I can click into the discussion and I can reply to the discussion from here, okay? So just those communication elements that we think are really important for being in the moment with your students and helping them feel like you're always available, you're there for them, and so forth. So, as I mentioned, this is the first iteration. Let's talk a little bit about where this app is going to be going in the future. And to do that, let's click over to our slides again. Okay. So the next stage is the one I'm most excited about, and that's going to be adding grading to the tablet app. Now, to be clear, we do have a dedicated assignment grading app called BB Grader. It's been around since 2015 or maybe even late 2014. If you're using that, you can continue to use that. That's not being end of life or anything like that. We are going to continue supporting that app until the grading workflows are present within the Instructor app. Okay, so you can look forward to getting grading, and I'll share a little bit more about the timeline for that in a moment, of text and file submissions. You'll be able to add comments, annotate, just like in your experience with the inline grader on Learn on your desktop or laptop machine. You'll be able to see all of this in a format that's optimized for tablets. So as I mentioned, we have those course view and communication elements present now. Toward the end of the year, early next year, we'll have the grading first phase, which gives us that review, grade, and comment on submitted assignments. And then later, a little bit after the beginning of next year, we'll start to see grading phase 2, which will enable rubric grading, multimedia feedback, and then support those delegated grading, anonymized grading, and other more advanced grading workflows. Question?
When you say multimedia, is that an option that we can use on our laptops now?
So,
Like where we could give a video feedback.
Sure.
Audio feedback?
Sure. So that is also on the roadmap for desktop and laptop Learn. It is available in BB Grader app because, again, you have already built in audio and video, whereas we're, with the deprecation of the YouTube APIs that we relied upon for video everywhere some time ago, if you remember that, we're having to build basically the audio and video engine ourselves, and that'll appear in Learn desktop and laptop and in the BB Instructor app as well.
But it is currently
In BB Grader, you can add, yes, you can add audio and video feedback to graded assignments. Yeah, great question. All right. So here again is that kind of quick summary list of what's available now, what's coming. Also in development will be the supportive organizations. So if you have clubs, things like that, pre-professional organizations or interest groups or anything like that that you're using Blackboard's organizations tool for, those will be supported in the Instructor app as well. So if you're moderating, pre-medicine club or something like that, you'll be able to do so within the app. And then we'll also have the attendance, as we mentioned, coming to the Instructor app as well. So that's coming to both the student app and to the Instructor app in time. Again, those are in research and design, so a little bit farther out, not going to be in the next release. We'll also have enhanced messaging there as well. So as I've mentioned a couple of times, we really thrive on your feedback. We want to be sure that we spend no spare minutes building something that you don't want or that doesn't work for you. We want to be sure that everything that we do is bang for your buck. So please do not only share with me today, but also I encourage you to join our community site where our huge community of practice, Blackboard Learn users, is very active and vocal, sharing ideas on which you can vote. You can submit your own ideas, and then those votes are tallied, and we actually put those into priority in our design, our product design and development. We also have various development programs, different types of cohorts. We have upgrade clubs. We have all kinds of different sort of user groupings that you can be a part of to get your feedback heard even more loudly. to have more influence on the design roadmap, our communications, and so forth. And then also, as I mentioned, in both the apps, you can provide feedback right within the app. All right, so we got through a lot today. I appreciate you listening to me talking very fast about our mobile apps for nearly an hour. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. And if there aren't any, I also have another hot tip that I was asked by Jane to share with you. But I'll see if there are questions first. Yes, question back.
I was just wondering for the instructor app,
Mhm.
for the courses, is that that course content, is that exactly what the students receive? Or is there a student view in the instructor app?
That relates to my hot tip. So let's put a pin in that. We'll come right back to it. Yep.
All right, this is back
No.
to the BB grader.
Yeah.
When I search it, it says, fifth grade. Is that not the correct one?
No, I'll show you the BB Grader app so you know what it looks like.
Do it after if you want.
Well, at least I can show you the icon. That will make it very easy. So notice at the bottom of my screen, BB Grader, second from the left. Says just BB Grader at the very bottom.
It's a little hidden by the menu bar.
Oh, is it? Oh, all right, hold on. Let me see if I can make my QuickTime kind of. I can't make it move. Hold on. Maybe I can drag it. There we go.
Oh, so it has like 2 Bs.
Yeah, BB Grader. Down
White
at the bottom
background.
on a white background. If you search for BB Grader rather than Blackboard, you should be able to find it. You're not finding it. Are you looking on a phone?
Yes.
It's an iPad app.
Oh.
So it's optimized for the tablet.
Okay.
Because again, you're gonna have inline grading, so that would get, the print would get extremely small. But yeah, iPad app only for iPad. The instructor app will be for iOS and Android. Okay, the student app is for iOS, Android, and Windows phones. Okay, yeah, sure. And when we log into that, that's kind of what the login page looks like. Yep.
Sorry, the instructor, I noticed some rules already. And I noticed
Oh, the profile? I'm not gonna talk till I get back to my. The profile area is not alterable.
So we can't.
Not from the app, because it's pulling from your Learn profile, and so that's where you would change that, in Learn.
So anything we change on the desktop under our profile will just reflect in the app.
Once there's anything to see. So right now, the profile doesn't really do anything because we're not displaying the profile to anyone, but that profile is coming from Learn. Rather than have you add a picture and whatever to your profile and Learn, and then go to the app and snap another picture that looks different and so forth. Question? No,
So when you
don't be
refer to
sacrificial.
Learn, you're talking about like this guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Desktop or laptop.
desktop or laptop experience. Yes. It is all one thing, but
Okay.
when I've said it, I refer to the desktop or laptop experience.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you think about it, this is just calling to your Learn instance.
Okay.
So it's just like,
Any changes we make, like on our laptop, it'll
yes,
convert to our mobile app.
yes,
and vice versa.
yes. Well, you're not gonna be able to do things like change your profile here.
Right, but like an announcement.
Yes, yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Other questions? All right, let's get to our hot tip. So Jane shared with me in advance of my arrival that you have adopted as a best practice the testing of your exams through student preview in order to check calculations and so forth. So that's normally something that we recommend you would do on the desktop or laptop, right? Just like your grade center schema and all of that sort of stuff. However, she did pique my interest about whether or not there was some way for us to utilize that student preview user with the student app, okay? Because if you think about it, the student app, it's made for students, and that app knows to only call up courses that you're enrolled in as a student. So if you're not a student in anything and you log into the student app, it'll say, sorry, no courses, because you're not enrolled in any courses as a student. However, the student preview user, the ghost user, that is created when you utilize student preview on your desktop or laptop machine in your course. We're all familiar with this? We know what I'm talking about? Okay. That ghost user, right, will show up on your roster. That ghost user, when you're logged in as it, him or her, right, can actually interact with your other students. You can post to discussions. You can send them messages. It's a real user from Learn's perspective. So if you'd like, you can take that ghost user and actually log in to the student app using it and participate in your own course as a student through the app. And that means you could really take a quiz as a student and so forth. You would really have a grade for that quiz in the grade book, okay? So the way that you would do this is that student preview user has a standardized username. So my name is Heather Woods. My first name would be listed in Learn as Heather. My last name would be listed as Woods. And my username might be Heather Woods, all one word, right? In that case, my student preview user's name is Heather, first name. Last name is Woods _ preview, capital P, user, capital U, all one word. Okay, so it would be Heather, first name, last name, Woods _ preview user. Okay, does that make sense? My username would be whatever my username is, Heather Woods, all lowercase, _ preview user. Okay, I could use that to then, this is a couple of steps. So number one, make a preview user. Step two, know the formula that magic formula I've just given you, right? Also, you could see this in your roster. Number three, go to your Learn instance on your desktop or laptop machine and tell it that you forgot your password. When it says, give me your name, your last name, your username, and I'll email it to you, your preview user has the same email that you do. So it will email you a link that then you can set up a password, right? Password or whatever. And then you log in as username _ preview user, password, and then you're a student in the BB Student app in your own courses, all right? So it's a couple of steps, but that's because, policies vary at different institutions. Some institutions allow faculty members to create a student and just put it in their course. Some don't. I think State Scholastica does not. And so we can use this workaround with the preview user, where Learn actually creates that fake user. And they can be, tracked. So any questions on that hot tip? Top secret pro tips. Any questions on anything else? We're right at time. I'm happy to stick around for a moment during the passing period and gather any feedback. Otherwise, again, please utilize those feedback channels that we've shared through the app, community.blackboard.com, heather.woods@blackboard.com, or through any of our programs. Thank you so much for your attention and your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.